I'm going to show everyone real quick just who we're dealing with. Can you just say your name real quick?
My name's Alyssa, and I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada.
Right on. Okay. So we've got Alyssa from Alberta, Canada. Are we good to go, Nick?
We are good to go.
Okay, sweet. Okay, so Alyssa from Alberta, Canada. First and foremost, how's Canada?
It's good. We're starting to get into winter.
Yeah?
They're falling and stuff.
Have you been to California?
Yes, I go down to Palm Springs every year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just went to Palm Springs actually with my fiance. It's nice. It's like super like mid-century modern. Like everything is like super artsy.
Yes, very. And the range is a bit older.
Yeah, I know. But it's nice. We got an Airbnb whenever we went down there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, my parents have a place there.
Oh, okay, cool. Right on. Okay, well, let's dive into it. Diet consult number 1. How can I help you?
So, I have a French bulldog. He is a year and like 3 months. He has eaten duck and paracana for his entire life. So in June of this year, I switched him to duck raw with a brand here in Canada called Carnivora.
Okay.
And it was just the diet, so it wasn't the dinner. It didn't have any like fruits and veggies in it or anything. It's just the patty with everything included. It was good for a bit, and then he started vomiting and getting diarrhea. So I thought, well, maybe he's allergic to it, and I'm just gonna change up the protein.
Okay.
So I went to a beef because he's only ever eaten one type of protein. So I was like, maybe he's just over it and he has a sensitivity now. So went to beef, and he was good for a little bit, and then he was sick again.
Okay.
So then I was like, well, maybe we'll try some lamb. Again, good for a little bit, and then was sick again.
So when you say sick, what are the symptoms?
He was vomiting, very lethargic, and lots of diarrhea, like almost not being able to hold it.
Okay.
So then I went to the vet, and I said, hey, like, what's going on here? This was my first vet visit other than having him go and get, like, shots and stuff like that. And she basically kind of said, like, he has a stomach infection, let's give him some antibiotics, and they gave me this terrible prescription food that I was just like, the smell of it made me want to die.
Right.
But he was back to normal, wasn't lethargic, wasn't vomiting, had regular like bowel movements, that kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
He was back to normal. But I was like, I'm not feeding him this. This is disgusting. I hate the way he smells. His farts were gross. So I put him on I put him on Stella and Chewy, the freezer dried lamb.
Okay.
He was super good for like, I want to say like 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
And we're back to the regular rigmarole. Vomiting, lethargic, not himself, like not being able to hold his bowel movement, that kind of thing. And I was like, geez, what the heck here? So I researched a clinic here in Edmonton called the Edmonton Holistic Veterinarian Clinic. And I went and seen a lady, and she goes, you know, it almost takes a while for the stomach to heal itself. Maybe we just need to go back to basics. So I put him back on a canna, duck and pear, and things are great.
Okay.
He's good to go.
Okay. So we've got a Frenchie that is a year and a half.
Yep.
Male Frenchie, year and a half, and he was to begin with on a Kana duck and pear, and
Yep.
we tried transitioning over to a Canadian food that was raw, and then from the Canadian food we switched over to a Stella and Chewy, like duck, right? And then we went from duck to beef.
It was Carnivora.
Okay, Carnivora.
And then I stuck with that for a bit, and then went to Stella and Chewy after the gross vet visit. He was on that weird prescription for a bit.
Okay, so when did you acquire that cute little Frenchie of yours?
I got him a year ago
Okay.
from a breeder here that's local.
How old was he when you got him?
I got him at 10 weeks.
Okay, so you got him at 10 weeks, so you got him at a very young age, okay? And when you got him at 10 weeks, what food did he start out on?
He was on From.
Okay. And then we transitioned from over to Akana, right?
Yep.
And how long was he ever okay to begin with? Like in terms of his gastrointestinal functionality, with his vomiting and diarrhea, was in lethargy. Was he like that when you got him to begin with, or did it begin? When did you say?
It started when I switched his diet, like when I switched him off kibble to raw.
Gotcha.
I started to notice that change.
Okay, so you're back on kibble and he's doing fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we tried to switch to raw and he was having symptoms like vomiting and diarrhea, and then we switched back over to kibble after going to a couple vets, and it seems as though the symptoms have subsided, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Has he ever been on any flea and tick medicine at all?
Not really, no.
Okay, so not really no leads me to believe maybe it's once in a while, because the reason I ask is the first two symptoms that are listed on any insecticide-based treatment are vomiting, diarrhea, and lethargy, like in that order. And
Okay.
there's a 90-day detox period when you give your dog an insecticide-based treatment, and really for humans as well.
An insecticide treatment, like what do you mean? He
Okay,
was on,
so what I mean by insecticide-based treatment is any once a month tablet, chewable tablet, or once a month topical treatment that you get from the vet, Petco, or PetSmart. Some brands are Comfortis, Trifexis, NexGard, Frontline, Advantage, Advantix, Brevecto.
I've never given him any of those things ever.
Okay, never.
Never.
Has he been on any type of medication?
He's been on painkillers when he was neutered.
Okay. But like, I guess like consistently or somewhat consistently, has he been on any medication?
No.
Okay. So, what type of treats do you give him?
The Acana duck, like the little, just the pure protein ones. He chews on like marrow bones.
Okay.
He likes spies and tracheas a lot. Those are his favorite things to pick from the dog store.
Okay.
We keep it pretty simple around here.
Okay. And the reason I ask is because a lot of times what happens is we're feeding food, and we're feeding premium food, and we're unaware that the treats that we're feeding is also technically food. So imagine for a second, if you will, if you had like a mild peanut allergy, right? And you took peanuts completely out of your diet in terms of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but then occasionally you'd have a payday, that had peanuts in it. Okay, that's going to affect you the same way your breakfast, lunch, or dinner with peanuts would. So we have to take into consideration the treats that we're feeding as well. And a lot of this may seem redundant to you, and I apologize, but I'm just trying to educate and inform you on the subject.
It's good.
So a lot of times too, what happens is in a surplus of fat in the diet can actually cause loose stool. Okay, so if we're giving marrow bones, tracheas, to be quite honest, I'm not too sure the fat content in a trachea. But for example, if we do a meal in the morning and then we give a marrow bone, the likelihood of your dog getting sick is extremely high. And the reason is marrow bones, in my opinion, are meal replacements when given 3 times per week. Now, would I use a marrow bone every single day as a meal replacement? Probably not. But if you're feeding them 1 to 3 times a week, you can totally use them, and you should use them as a meal replacement. And the reason is the high fat content, okay? And, imagine for a second, it says pause. Are we still here?
Yeah, I am. I just have to...
Okay, cool. Yeah, take your time.
No, it was just a call was coming in. I didn't mind it.
Okay. I thought it was like a change of wardrobe or something. I thought you were gonna hold on. Okay. Anyway, so what could happen is a surplus of fat, and what I was saying was, imagine Thanksgiving, right? Like when you just engorge yourself. People when they overeat, they don't tend to feel that well, especially when you eat a lot of fat. So dogs, when they have too much fat, have a tendency to have loose stool and definitely vomiting as well. So.
Okay.
I would, moving forward, when transitioning or trying to transition back to raw, which I highly recommend doing, and I'll explain how to do that too. I would take that into consideration. Remember, if you're going to feed a marrow bone, to use it as a meal replacement, and not to feed a meal until like probably at least 6 to 8 hours after you give that marrow bone.
That's good to know. That's good to know because we were seeing a lot of like vomiting. Because he would have treats. I don't know. He has breakfast at 8 in the morning, and then I don't feed him supper until about 6 o'clock at night because that's when I get home from work. But my partner's home during the day, and so he fed him treats during the day, and we would notice he would throw up his dinner.
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense.
How many pounds is your Frenchie?
He's 25.
And how much are you feeding him? And I guess I should ask, how much raw were you feeding him?
So when he was on raw, I was feeding him a patty a day, so half in the morning and half at night.
Okay, so yeah, that sounds about right. Now, when you're evaluating his weight, and whenever I ask people what their opinion of their dog is, I use this analogy. I say, if you have an Olympian athlete in front of you, you're likely going to know that they're into some type of extreme physical fitness because of their physique, right? If you have someone that eats potato chips and plays video games and has never gotten outside, you're probably going to know that too by just their physique, right? So when evaluating your dog, not based on the weight recommendation from your vet or seeing Wikipedia recommending your Frenchie is supposed to be 20 pounds, what would you say your Frenchie is? Would you say that he has been underweight, average, fit and trim, slightly overweight? What would you evaluate his weight as?
I think he's about average. I noticed a big change in his muscularness when he was on the raw, and less bloated. Like his stomach was less bloated.
Okay.
So he looked very trim and muscular on raw. Now that he's back on kibble, I find he's got back that bloated stomach, and he just is average.
Okay. So, and the reason I ask is because a lot of times too, we're overfeeding our dogs. Now, the recommendation for a 25-pound dog like you were feeding is actually a pound per day, or actually half a pound. It's 8 ounces. So, and that's what you were feeding, right? Like half a patty in the morning, half a patty at night?
Yep.
Okay. So, and that's actually right in terms of recommendation. Now, my dog Floyd, who's laying down over here on the bed here, I'll show him to you. Okay. You see what? Okay, so that dog weighs 110 pounds and he gets 3 patties per day. So quite literally, he's getting 1.5 pounds. His recommendation is like 5 or 6 patties. Okay? Yeah, so I feed him substantially less than the recommendation, and he does well. And actually, he's still overweight. So moving forward, I would definitely recommend when you're starting to transition back into raw to do it so slow, especially if we have a dog that's been sensitive. Some dogs, come into our store, we give them raw. Literally, their parents are like over kibble. They'll switch over the next day and they're perfectly fine. But then we have dogs like your Frenchie where we try to transition over to raw and it just doesn't sit well with their stomach, possibly because we're feeding too much fat at times, possibly because we haven't transitioned slowly enough. There's a variety of different reasons it could happen. And a lot of times it's the insecticide-based treatment, and that's the reason we talked about that earlier, is because 80% of the time whenever I have a client that comes in and says vomiting, diarrhea, it's directly related to the insecticide-based treatment. So now that we've ruled that out, my opinion is that you should slowly start to transition into raw, and I would say take 4, 5, 6 weeks. Usually the recommendation is 5 to 10 days. But I mean, start with a teaspoon, and put it in his kibble, and use a teaspoon for 4 or 5 days. And then the next 4 or 5 days go up to 2 teaspoons. And you see where I'm going with this. So that's what I would recommend doing. And then, I'm not sure of what brands you get out there, but I would try to stick with I really like duck and I really like rabbit. I'm just like obsessed with those 2 proteins right now. And I feel like I guess like intuitively, I feel like that's what my dog would eat in their natural habitat. Obviously if they were, starving and they saw a cow, they'd eat it, but I like small little animals because I feel like that's what my dog would eat in their natural habitat.
Yeah, totally. And my Frenchie's not huge either, so I can't imagine him taking down a cow. So.
Right. So I would recommend definitely a probiotic. Probiotic is my favorite supplement. So many times I have people come in that need a recommendation for probiotic or for supplements, and I say, if I was stranded on a desert island and I had one supplement to take with me, it would be a probiotic. And the reason is the gut is the source of the immune system. Okay? And if we can heal the gut, it's really easy to heal everything else. So I would definitely start with a probiotic. Is he on any probiotics?
No, not currently.
Okay,
But
so
when we were, like, the first time I went and seen the vet, he was on Fortea.
Yeah.
Forte.
So, usually if you get a bump or a bruise, or usually if you're not feeling well, your eyes are swollen. The same thing happens when your dog's digestive system isn't working correctly. It becomes inflamed. The gut becomes inflamed. And what we need to do is decrease that inflammation with probiotics. And I would definitely recommend a probiotic that has prebiotics, because the prebiotics actually feed the probiotics. So it's like fuel for the probiotics. And once we get done with this, I'll shoot you a direct message of some products that I recommend. So definitely a probiotic moving forward, like forever and ever. And even for yourself, I would recommend a probiotic. And then also, Nick knows what Nick's behind me right now, by the way. Say hi to Nick.
Hey, Nick.
Hello.
He's operating the camera right now. But Nick knows my next recommendation is going to be detox. And what that is it's actually a variety of organic herbs, two of which I really like: dandelion root and milk thistle. What those are going to do are detoxify the liver and the kidneys, which are the filters of the body. Okay? So what we're doing is we're cleaning up and healing the gut with the probiotics, and we're cleaning up and healing the liver and the kidneys with that detox formula, which is milk thistle and dandelion.
Okay.
Okay. Water, I always recommend, like, people overlook water every single day. Never feed tap water.
Okay.
It's too heavy and there's too many heavy metals in tap water, and I highly recommend a purified water or an alkaline water like this guy here that I'm drinking. This is, I don't know if you can see it here. Do you see that 8 right there? It's an 8.
Yeah.
It's an 8 pH. So 8 pH is going to be perfectly fine for your dog or for your cat. A lot of people think that your dog shouldn't get like alkaline water, and maybe that's true at like 10, 11, 12 pH, but like I would have to assume that the most pure water, like in Tahiti, has a high pH level. And if I were to, are you there? We lost her. It's our first loss. It's our first loss of connection, but we're going to be reconnecting here very soon. Nick, do you have any questions for me? How are we doing so far?
We're doing pretty good so far.
Awesome. We're still reconnecting. If we have to, we'll call her back. But this is a good diet consult, right? How's the audio? Do you think they're going to be able to hear it? Have they had any comments on hearing it?
No.
Okay. Call failed, so we're going to call her back. Hopefully she's not trying to call me. I'm going to drink some of my alkaline water.
What happened?
I don't know. Hey, I think we did pretty good. I don't know how long we were going for, but for us to drop our first call, first FaceTime after 20 minutes, I don't know. I think we're doing good.
That's pretty awesome. That's good. Yeah, here's the little guy.
Oh, let me see. We're going to show the camera too. Nick, is this good? Oh my goodness gracious. What a cutie pie. Look at that boy.
This is Charles.
Charles. Hi, Charles. Hi, Charles. How you doing, baby? Oh my goodness. I love that name.
Look.
Hi, Charles. Hey, baby. You're so cute. I love you. Hey, it's Dallas from Huntington Beach. How you doing?
I don't understand this technology. Oh, it puts us in my face.
That's so funny. Okay, so yeah, the water thing is important. The probiotic, the detox, And then the transitioning over slowly is very important. Now, one thing that we haven't talked about is rotation, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about rotation before, but when you said that you had him on duck and pear for a while, we need to be sure that we're rotating frequently. And with Charles, I would recommend starting out slow because he is notorious for those stomach issues. But eventually, say a year down the line, we want to be to a point where we're able to give Charles duck one day, lamb the next, and he does perfectly fine. And then go from lamb to beef, and he does perfectly fine. That may never be an option for him. You know, he may just have to transition slowly, like maybe over the course of 2 to 3 days, maybe 1 week. But I do recommend rotating at least every 2 weeks. And the reason is, when we're feeding one food consistently over and over and over and over again, dogs can actually develop an allergy to that food. Okay? So it's important. And not one food can provide everything that your dog needs to thrive and be healthy. Imagine eating oatmeal and berries for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day of the year. It's monotonous. You'd be missing out on avocados, bananas, and all the other healthy foods out there.
Totally. Well, and that's why I want to do this transition to raw. I know how important it is. And Frenchies aren't cheap. And I want to live a very long life.
Of course.
Purebred as well. So we know that purebreds can generally have more genetic issues. But if we can do some prevention by feeding them awesome foods, that's kind of where I'm going with this.
Virtual high five. That was amazing. That's great. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so slowly transition. And you know the remedy. I've talked to Dr. Karen Becker before, and she agrees. The same woman in Pet Fooled. I don't know if you've seen that documentary, but she's a world-renowned integrative vet, and I think highly of her, and she agrees that we should use a mild food like chicken and rice when that stomach becomes inflamed and upset. So if that does happen again, I would recommend that just to tame the stomach down until it's taken care of. So if, for example, we're transitioning from Akana over to raw, and he has a bout of diarrhea or something, we can switch him over to chicken and rice for the night, and hopefully that's the remedy.
Okay.
Anything else I'm missing, Nick? Anything else? I mean, there's not too much science involved. It's just transition slower, use chicken and rice at your disposal when he has an upset stomach. Transition extremely slow, use probiotics. I'm going to send you the probiotics that I recommend. Localpetmarket.com for your probiotics, people. Detox for the liver and the kidney. The water, make sure it's purified and alkaline. The treats, going back to the treats and the chews again. Let's be careful with the treats and the chews. Let's only use minimal ingredient meat-based treats. So minimal ingredient meaning 1 to 3 ingredients, meat-based meaning obviously meat. And then don't feed any greenies, whimsies, Dentastix. Don't feed any milk bones, are terrible. We want to read the ingredients on every single thing that we get. So especially in regards to treats and chews, never give your dog a rawhide. Rawhide's terrible. The no hide, like all those
no thanks.
Yeah. So just if we need it to look like meat.
Yeah.
That's it.
It should look natural, and he should be eating what we feed ourselves. There's nothing. The breeder and me had a big long conversation about the trickery of kibble and all the things out there and the products that they want you to buy, and this is gonna work for your dog. But I just was actually I seen an interesting story about someone using a flea
comb or a flea collar.
It was like the silver flea insecticide on these cats, and these cats were just they died.
Yeah.
But there was videos of what was happening to them. It was horrific to watch, but they bought it at a dollar store.
Yeah. What do you expect?
Buy myself something at the dollar store.
Yeah, I don't know, but spread the message too. Anytime anybody brings up upset stomach about their dog or cat, first question that you should ask is your dog or cat on a flea and tick medicine? Because if so, it's insecticide. And then, point them to my page, or, just continue to educate them. And I say it all the time that, we are, this just in, I'm doing good. Nick just sent me a little note, so I'm doing good.
Yay!
But what I would recommend is, educating other pet parents, and I say it all the time that we are the pet revolution, which is, we are the voices for these dogs and cats that can't speak for themselves. And there's a reason that dogs shake when they go into the vet.
Yep.
It's because, imagine, if you will, for a second, being held captive and having a collar and a leash on you and going in to a hospital where they force insecticides down your throat and they make you eat byproducts of animals that are unfit for human consumption, and they poke and prod you with all these vaccinations, and they just prescribe the nastiest food in the industry, like
Great.
you would shake too. It's just so funny. Like, I think we've just become so conditioned in the industry to look at our dogs shaking at the vet as just, oh, they're just scared to go to the vet. Like, we should think about this for a second. Why are they scared about being at the vet? Wouldn't they be happy? When your dog's happy, what does he do?
He's just like the cutest little thing ever, and he's like running around, and he's just like so full of energy.
Right. So why aren't they like that at the vet? There's a reason.
We have to muzzle Charles because he gets snipped with the vet. He doesn't like playing. But I find, like I said, I researched the vets here locally.
Good.
And I found someone who was awesome, and she did a really good job in minimalizing his fears and stuff. And I actually said, well, he's due for his vaccination. She's like, actually, you're gonna come back once he's healed from his stomach stuff, and we're gonna have a chat about that.
Yeah.
And we're gonna make him like coming to the vet. She's like, we've got some work to do, but she just was awesome. She wrapped him in a blanket. It was amazing, and he was the chillest dog I've ever seen at the vet.
Listen, you would have to muzzle me if you had to take me into the hospital where they force stuff down my throat too. Like, I would probably have to be muzzled too, Nick.
He's smart.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. That was really informative and good to know.
Of course.
We do feed him filtered, we have a spring fresh water that we run through a filter here,
Cool.
And it's really well pH balanced and stuff. That's important for us to ingest.
Yeah.
So we give it to Charles as well. So we're good on the water, and I think the treats are pretty good because I only really kind of feed him the Acana
Right.
duck one.
Yeah.
And we'll just be cautious about the marrow bones, that kind of thing.
With the dry food, add moisture. Add water, bone broth, goat milk. The goat milk and the bone broth can be high in fat. I would recommend water.
Okay.
Add water to the dry food because it's definitely going to help decrease the chances of that dry food causing stomach upset. And the reason is, if you pour water into a bowl of dry food, what happens? Do you know?
It expands.
It expands. Okay? So we want the food to expand in the bowl and not in the dog's stomach.
So will that help with his bloating then?
Tremendously.
Okay.
Yeah, it will tremendously help. Before I let you go, we have an Instagram question. What is it?
It is, if my dog has a sensitivity to chicken, what other protein can I use when she has an upset stomach?
Okay, cool. I'm going to answer that. I'm going to let you go. I don't want to hold your time up. I'm going to answer this Instagram question. If you want to tune into Instagram and watch the rest of this, you can. If not, totally fine. But thank you so much for being the first diet consult on YouTube ever. All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
For sure. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. High five, dude. It's good stuff. Okay, so Lasson _ Lasaint or Lasson has a question, and it is, if your dog has a sensitivity to chicken, what should we do about that, right? How do we...
What other protein can I use when she has an upset stomach? 'Cause
What
you
other
mentioned chicken rice before.
Okay, so what other protein can they use? What other protein can you use other than chicken if your dog has a sensitivity to chicken? Well, beef is really good. I would recommend, some cooked beef with rice. It's that simple. Cooked beef with rice. Anything else? Any other questions? Does anybody else have a question before I leave? We're broadcasting this live on YouTube and on Instagram. I'm looking at both here. So if you wanna see this recorded,
Les Saint says, awesome, thanks.
well, Saint, you're welcome. Everyone, never give your dog or cat an insecticide-based treatment. Really, if you're on kibble, transition over to raw. That's amazing. It's biologically appropriate. It's how your dog, cat would eat in their natural habitat. What else? If you're gonna feed dry food, feed the best dry food in the industry, Origin and Akana. You can find it online, localpetmarket.com. Free shipping over $49. Yes, that means if you get a 13-pound bag of Origin, it's likely gonna ship for free because it's gonna be like around $49. It gets there in like 1 to 3 days, and it's free. They're doing some construction. We're in a garage. What do you expect? Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Dallas Watland. Nick, come over here. Tell these people thank you. Little cameo of Nick.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more local shenanigans. This is Dallas Watland. Shop local pet market. Never give your dog or cat an insecticide-based treatment.